Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the Servant Leader CPA. I'll be your presenter, Colten Christiansen. Before we dive into the first lesson, let me briefly go over what we will be discussing in this course and go over the course objectives. Leading with Purpose, the Servant Leader CPA is a transformative course designed to empower CPAs with the principles and practices of servant leadership. Participants will delve into the core philosophy of servant leadership, exploring how to prioritize the needs of their teams, clients, and communities. This course will provide practical insights on fostering a collaborative and inclusive work environment, emphasizing empathy, active listening, and ethical decision-making. CPAs will learn how to cultivate a culture of service, unlocking the potential for enhanced team engagement and client satisfaction. CPAs will also learn how the servant leadership approach meshes seamlessly with the Agile approach to management. By looking at case studies, practitioners will not only see this method in action, but develop the skills necessary to lead with authenticity, humility, and a commitment to making a positive impact in both their professional practice and the broader community. The objectives for this course are as follows. Recognize the definition of servant leadership. Distinguish the difference between service and power. Recognize the characteristics of servant leadership. Describe how servant leadership aligns with the Agile management approach. Identify the key practices of a servant leader. And finally, recognize the 4 steps to becoming a servant leader. All right, let's begin our first lesson. Professionals around the world are finding the Agile methodology to be a successful tool in their work. We discussed the Agile methodology in greater depth in a different course. However, it's important to highlight some key factors that tie the Agile management strategy with the concept of servant leadership. Therefore, a brief summary of Agile management strategy is necessary. So, in order to adapt to an Agile methodology, one must first adopt an Agile mindset. A practice owner who leads with an Agile mindset will be able to instruct their employees on how to do the following: how to act in an Agile manner, use feedback to improve the next iteration of their work, obtain transparency among the team, prioritize more significant items first, and finally, learn servant leadership skills to benefit the organization. So, the last item for developing an Agile mindset is to adopt a servant leadership approach, which is probably new for most professionals. Servant leadership is a leadership style that, when used by practitioners, will help to empower the practice team through serving the needs of the practice team members. I will soon be describing the details of servant leadership and the positive effects its use has when leading a team, but before discussing servant leadership, let's first review traditional leadership for managing a team. Most practitioners are familiar with more of a traditional form of leadership. This is probably the form of leadership that's used by a majority of people throughout the world. This is a leadership style where the designed leader will issue a command and the individuals that are required to follow the leader are expected to follow the command. The definition of a traditional leader, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is, quote, a person who leads, such as 1, a person who directs a military force or unit, and 2, a person who has commanding authority or influence. So, imagine you're a team member that is being led by a manager using a traditional approach for leadership. This manager is using commanding words as the way to get the members of the team to complete their individual work tasks. Do you feel encouraged or discouraged? Do you feel inspired or uninspired? And finally, does this leadership approach make you feel satisfied or unsatisfied? If this leadership approach makes you feel discouraged, uninspired, and unsatisfied, you're not the only one. The only individual who enjoys being in this situation is the manager of the team because they hold the authority over everybody else. Most importantly, these are not the traits that a successful leader would demonstrate when applying an Agile approach for completing any type of work. Remember that an Agile approach must embody the 4 values defined in the Agile Manifesto and the 12 Agile principles. The first value in the Agile Manifesto is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. This means that the team should focus on the people on the team and how they communicate first, and the tools and practices that will be used second. This will promote the team working together. This value also supports individual interactions where everyone contributes to the process and their work impacts everyone else. This cannot occur with a command leadership approach. Agile principle number 5 requires building projects around motivated individuals. Practice owners must give their employees the environment and support they need, then trust them to get the job done. This requires listening to understand their needs as a leader and then to provide what is needed by the team. Agile principle number 11 states that the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. A self-organizing team will work together to plan the project. They will also continually meet as a team to revise the plan. A team that works like this typically breaks the work down into smaller chunks called user stories. Notice that a self-organizing team does not allow a command leadership style to be used to lead the team. The leader must take a different approach when applying an Agile methodology. Finally, Agile principle number 12 states that at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. This means that the team will inspect and adapt how to execute the work. This is done by the entire team, not just the practitioner. This approach creates knowledge on how to improve the team's performance in the future. Agile approaches to complete any work done in a practice require a different style of leadership to truly adopt an Agile mindset. Servant leadership is the leadership style that will assist in applying Agile values and principles. Servant leadership is a somewhat new type of leadership style for applying an Agile approach and leading a practice. It is not a new leadership style, but it is newly being applied to leading an Agile organization. In fact, Robert Greenleaf coined the modern use of this term in his essay, The Servant as Leader, in 1970. He defines servant leadership as, quote, "The servant leader is servant first. It begins with the natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. That person is sharply different from one who is leader first, perhaps because of the need to assuage an unusual power drive or to acquire material possessions. The leader first and the servant first are two extreme types. Between them, there are shadings and blends that are part of the infinite variety of human nature." A guide to the Scrum body of knowledge defines servant leadership as, quote, "Servant leaders are stewards who achieve results by focusing on the needs of the team. This style is the embodiment of the Scrum Master role." The PMI Agile Guide defines servant leadership as, quote, "The practice of leading through service to a team by focusing on understanding and addressing the needs and development of team members." So these are all three slightly different definitions of servant leadership, but they include the same basic characteristics. The first characteristic is one of serving the team. The second characteristic is focusing on the needs of the team. Finally, the last characteristic is the development of the team members. There is nothing in any of these three definitions about getting work accomplished as the priority for the leader. The priority of this leadership style is a focus on the team and team members. In fact, this style of leadership is not our natural tendency. It goes against the grain of traditional command leadership by rearranging the leader's priorities. A traditional leadership approach focuses on completing practice deliverables by their scheduled deadline and under their estimated budget. A servant leader shifts their first priority to the highest needs of their team. These needs could be as simple as more materials to complete their work. It could also extend into personal needs that may not be widely known to others on the team or in the organization. The image to my left shows the difference between the traditional leadership approach and the servant leadership approach. Notice in the image that both pyramids contain the same roles. On the left, the leader sits at the top of the pyramid holding power over the rest of the pyramid. In a traditional leadership approach, management holds power over their employees while answering to their leader. Then, the needs of the employees and customers follow. Customers hold no organizational power and employees hold little to no power as well. They are required to follow the commands of those above them, even though they are the ones who interact with the customers personally. Leaders and management may only interact with customers when there's an issue or problem that must be solved. In these cases, blame is usually placed on the employees in this environment, showing that employees have pressure from both above and below the pyramid. The servant leadership pyramid turns the structure on its head, literally. Though the servant leader holds power, he or she is placed at the bottom, delegating power upward. This shows the importance of the team members to the organization and how these individuals are the ones that create the finished products for the customers. If issues arise, the leader or management will approach employees with instruction rather than anger. This helps relieve tension and promotes a speedy fix to the problem at hand. The purpose of Greenleaf's research into this style of leadership was to make the world a better and less selfish place. His ultimate desire was to transform organizations. He wished for organizations to leave a positive impact on the world. So, does this mean that servant leaders do less than their traditional counterparts? Absolutely not. A servant leader completes the same work as a traditional leader. This could be directing the team towards a shared vision, delegating tasks amongst their team, or having open communication. The difference comes from the fact that servant leaders fulfill this role through serving. The focus lies with the needs of the team members. Determining the team members' needs and fulfilling these needs will give the team members the motivation and focus to perform the tasks at hand. Providing for the needs of the team gives the team freedom of an open mind to work towards the organizational goal. The practitioner showing helpfulness and kindness to their team members not only benefits the team members, but also the practitioner as well. Servant leaders tend to feel more satisfied with their job and have a better sense of meaning within their organizational role. So this ends our first lesson. Next, we're going to be looking at the history of servant leadership and discussing how providing service to your team is typically better than holding power over your team. I'll see you next time.